I am not in a position to give a proper judgment on Eruntics. Who can ever know how much truth lurks behind such deep audacity? At a glance, the book looks like a scientific handbook, though it is a pack of absurdities. It makes no pretense to literary fantasy, for it is not an artistic composition. If it depicts the truth, this truth belies virtually the whole of contemporary knowledge. If it lies, it does so in monstrous proportions.
R. Gulliver introduces himself as a philosopher dilettante and amateur bacteriologist who one day 18 years ago decided to teach bacteria English.
The beginning was simple. On the agar lies a single colony of colon bacilli, E. coli, 4 times smaller than the letter O. The behavior of this grayish spot is observed from above by an optic head connected to a computer. The colony ordinarily expands in all directions centrifugally, but in the experiment, expansion is possible only along a simple axis. For any movement beyond, it switches on a laser projector that kills the misbehaving bacteria with ultraviolet rays.
The author repeated this experiment 45,000 times, using 2,000 petri dishes simultaneously and the same number of sensing devices connected to a parallel computer. On 2 of the 2,000 dishes, there was enough mutation to produce a new strain of colon bacillus, E. coli orthogenes, no longer capable of developing otherwise than in dashes. This new type covered the agar with the following filament. Growth along a single axis then became the inherited property of the mutated bacteria. By breeding this strain, R. Gulliver obtained a further 1,000 dishes with colonies, and thus a practice range for the next stage in bacterial orthography. With strains that bred in alternating dots and dashes, he ultimately reached the limits of this phase of instruction. The bacteria behaved in accordance with the imposed condition, though naturally they produced no writing, only superficial elements of it deprived of any meaning. He deliberated as follows: bacteria have to be put into a position where they behave in a certain specific manner, and this behavior, which at their level of vegetation is purely chemical, will take the form of signals. In the course of 4 million experiments, R. Gulliver macerated, dried to dust, roasted, thawed, cut, squeezed, and catalytically paralyzed billions of bacteria until he finally obtained a strain of E. coli which reacted to mortal danger by arranging its colonies into these dots. The letter S, 3 dots signify S in the Morse alphabet, symbolized stress. Of course, the bacteria still understood nothing, but they were able to save themselves only by reacting through the foregoing arrangement of their colonies, for then and only then did the sensing device connected to the computer remove the menacing agent.
R. Gulliver already saw that he could breed a strain which could give SOS signals, though he considered this an altogether superfluous step. He took a different course, teaching the bacteria how to differentiate signals according to the characteristic features of each threat. Thus, for example, the strain E. coli loquativa 67 and E. coli philographica 213 could eliminate free oxygen, which is lethal to them, from their environments solely by giving the signal SO, or stress produced by oxygen. In the next stage, our Gulliver broadened the base of his experiments, teaching Morse to streptococci and gonococci, though these germs proved fairly dull-witted. He then went back to the colon bacillus. Tribe 201 was distinguished by its mutational adaptability. It produced longer and longer statements, both descriptions and demands, indicating what troubled the bacteria, as well as what they wished by way of nutriment. Continuing to preserve only the most efficiently mutating strains, after 11 years, he obtained the strain E. coli eloquentissima, the first to begin to write spontaneously and not merely when threatened. He says the happiest day of his life occurred when E. coli eloquentissima reacted to the light being switched on in the laboratory with the words "Good morning," articulated by a growth of the agar colonies in Morse code. Finally, on November 27th, after a new mutation, E. coli loquativa began to issue stress signals, though nothing indicated that there were any noxious compounds in the agar. However, the following day, 29 hours after the alarm, some plaster above the laboratory table fell from the ceiling and crushed all the petri dishes on the table. The author's supreme achievement was the breeding of Gallivaria coli prophetissima and Proteus delphicus recta mirabilis. These strains predict the future, and not only within the range of occurrences affecting their own vegetation. Nevertheless, in their predictive behavior, bacteria are fairly limited. In the first place, they predict no events directly, but only as if transmitting the contents of a publication dealing with those events. In the second place, they're incapable of prolonged concentration. Their top efficiency extended to barely 15 sheets of TypeScript. In the third place, all the texts by bacterial authors referred to period between 2003 and 2089. While fully acknowledging that this phenomena can be explained in various ways, our Gulliver plumps for his own hypothesis. 50 years from now, a municipal library is to arise on the site of his present holdings. The bacterial code is to be introduced indiscriminately into the library to be used for selecting random volumes from the shelves. There are no volumes at the moment, to be sure, nor even a library. Though in his desire to strengthen the credibility of bacterial predictions, our Gulliver has already drawn up his will, by the terms of which the town council is to convert his homestead into a library. It cannot be said that he acted at the instigation of his microbes, but rather than reverse. It was they who foresaw the contents of his will before it had been drawn up.